There's a house in Bath, Ohio, a white split level on a quiet street, a yard with a mailbox and a driveway and a basketball hoop rusting at the edge of the lawn. The kind of house you drive past without thinking twice. But something was breaking inside that house, quietly, over years, in a way that nobody around him could see, or maybe didn't want to see. His name was Jeffrey Dahmer, and between 1978 and 1991, he murdered 17 young men. He dismembered them, he preserved their remains, he photographed their bodies, and in the final months before his arrest, he ate them. Now, you could stop this video right there and walk away with a story about a monster. A lot of videos do exactly that. But we're not going to do that today, because the real question, the one that actually matters, the one that might teach us something, isn't what Jeffrey Dahmer did, it's how he got there, and whether anyone could have stopped it. The answer is disturbing, not because it lets him off the hook, it doesn't, but because it points the finger at a lot of people who thought they had nothing to do with any of this. Part 1. The Boy Nobody Noticed. Jeffrey Dahmer was born in 1960 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and grew up in the small town of Bath, Ohio, the kind of Midwestern suburb that was supposed to be the picture of the American dream: middle class, safe, quiet. His father, Lionel, was a research chemist, educated, disciplined, and often away. His mother, Joyce, was a woman fighting serious mental illness, depression that went largely untreated. She spent a lot of time in bed. She withdrew from family life, and when she withdrew, the warmth of the household went with her. Jeffrey was left to fill that silence by himself, and silence, for a child, is a lot louder than people think. Around the age of 8, he started spending time alone in the woods near his house. He would find animals that had been killed on the road, squirrels, raccoons, dogs, and he would bring them home. He would take them apart. He told investigators decades later that he just wanted to see what was inside. Most children who find a dead animal feel sad or scared. Jeffrey felt curious. That difference is small when you're 8 years old. By the time he was a teenager, it wasn't small anymore. As he moved into adolescence and began to understand his own sexuality, that early fascination with the insides of living things became tangled up with something else entirely. His emerging attraction to other men and his fixation with death and dissection began to merge in his mind. Two things that had no business being connected. By high school, he was struggling. He was bullied regularly, physically, by older students. He didn't fight back, and he didn't tell anyone. He absorbed it. He drank to cope, showing up to class at 7 in the morning already drunk, keeping alcohol in a paper bag in his jacket. His teachers noticed, some commented on it, and then nothing happened. He became known around school mostly as the strange kid who would perform fake seizures in the hallways for money. Classmates would pool together a few dollars to watch him fall on the floor and convulse. It sounds dark, because it is dark, but it's also the story of a lonely teenager who had found the only way he knew to be seen. There's a detail from his high school yearbook that has always stuck with people who studied his life. Jeffrey managed to sneak into a photo of the National Honor Society, a club he was not a member of. When the faculty advisor caught it, he blacked Jeffrey's face out of the print. The yearbook ran anyway. A boy with a black box where his face should be. A boy who didn't exist. His parents' marriage collapsed while he was still in high school. His mother left. His father left, and Jeffrey, 18 years old, was left alone in that house with his thoughts, his alcohol, and the fantasies he had been quietly building for years. Part 2. The First Kill. It was the summer of 1978. Jeffrey had just graduated. His parents' divorce was finalizing. He was living alone in the empty family house, drinking every day, and the fantasies that had been growing in the back of his mind were beginning to look for a way out. He had been imagining a specific scenario: picking up a young man on the road, bringing him home, having someone stay. On a June evening, he saw him. a teenager named Stephen Hicks, 16 years old, hitchhiking to a summer concert. He accepted the ride. They went back to the house. They drank together. They talked. And when Stephen stood up to leave, he didn't want him to go. He didn't want to be alone again in that empty house. He grabbed a barbell and struck him from behind. He told investigators later that he wasn't thinking about killing him. He was thinking, "Don't leave me here." And then Stephen was dead, and Jeffrey was alone with what he had done. What happened next set the template for everything that followed. He dismembered the body. He put the remains in bags. He loaded them into his car to dispose of them. On the road, a police officer pulled him over for a minor traffic violation. The officer shone his flashlight into the back seat and saw the bags. He asked about them. Jeffrey said it was trash he hadn't gotten around to dumping. The officer wrote him a ticket and drove away. The first time the system had a chance to stop Jeffrey, it wrote him a ticket for crossing the center line and left him on the road with a dead body in the back of his car. Jeffrey scattered the remains in the woods. He read the paper every day for weeks looking for a missing persons report. There wasn't one. Nobody came looking. Nobody suspected anything. And something settled permanently into his understanding of the world. He had gotten away with it, and he would get away with it again. He wouldn't kill again for 9 years, but he never stopped thinking about it. Part 3. The Long Silence. The 9 years between 1978 and 1987 are easy to overlook in the Dahmer story, but they matter because they show a man who was trying and failing to be someone else. He enrolled in college and dropped out. He joined the Army and was discharged for alcohol abuse. He moved briefly to Florida, then came back north to Milwaukee to live with his grandmother. He worked factory jobs. He went to church. He read the Bible. He tried, in his own words, to suppress what was inside him. He was also deeply, profoundly alone. He was gay in an era that was not something you talked about openly in the kind of community he came from. He was carrying a secret about a boy named Stephen Hicks that he could never tell anyone. And the fantasies, the ones about control, about someone staying, about never being abandoned, had never gone anywhere. They had just gone quiet. In 1985, something gave way. He started visiting gay bathhouses in Milwaukee, where he began drugging men, slipping sedatives into their drinks so they would lose consciousness, so they couldn't leave. He wasn't killing yet. He was practicing control. When the bathhouses eventually banned him after other patrons started reporting that men were going unconscious near him, he moved to hotels. In 1987, a man died in a hotel room. He had blacked out from drinking. He woke up, and the man was dead. He couldn't remember what had happened. He went to a store across the street, bought a large suitcase, packed the body inside, and left. A cab driver helped him load it into the taxi. Nobody stopped him. Nobody asked questions. And the thing that had been dormant for nearly a decade woke back up. Jeffrey needed his own place, somewhere private, somewhere he could close the door and be whoever he actually was. He found it at apartment 213, Oxford Apartments, North 25th Street, Milwaukee, a third-floor unit in a white stucco building. Ordinary, anonymous. Between 1988 and 1991, he killed 12 men inside that apartment. He would find them at bars, at bus stops, sometimes just on the street. He offered money for photo sessions. He offered drinks. He brought them upstairs. He laced the drinks with sedatives. And once they were unconscious, once they couldn't leave, couldn't say no, couldn't be anyone other than whoever he needed them to be, he killed them. To understand what was happening in that apartment, you have to understand what it was not. It was not rage. Every investigator, every psychologist, every prosecutor who spent extensive time with Jeffrey Dahmer after his arrest came to the same uncomfortable conclusion. He felt something closer to love for his victims, obsessive, possessive, completely destructive, but in his own shattered mind, something like love. He told the detective who interviewed him, "People always left. I could never get anyone to stay with me, so I figured that the only way I could keep them was by killing them."
That is one of the saddest sentences ever spoken in an interrogation room. It is also the statement of a man who chose over and over to do monstrous things. Both of those things are true at the same time, and we have to hold both of them. All the while, the system kept finding him and letting him go. In 1988, he was arrested for assaulting a 13-year-old. He had already killed 4 people by that point. The court didn't know that. He was sentenced to daytime work release and 5 years of probation. During the entire length of that probation, not one officer ever visited his apartment. He was also court-ordered to see a psychologist every month. He attended those sessions, having sometimes killed someone that same weekend, and he passed every evaluation. In May 1991, just 2 months before his arrest, Milwaukee police were called to the street outside Oxford,